Hi and welcome to this book haul. I'm finally buying books again, and in today's video I'm showing you which ones I bought this time around. If you're new to the channel, I'm Øystein and I talk about books and book related stuff. Even though fantasy isn't the biggest topic of this channel, I feel like I've been talking a lot about it the last couple of months, and this video won't be that much different, because the first book in this video is Rivers of London by Ben Arnovich. This is about a police officer that can speak to the dead, and he investigates magic crimes. And it's supposed to have a great deal of English wit, which I really prefer, and that's why this has been on my list for a long time. So if I just finish Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell now, I'll probably start reading this quite soon. And if you feel like I'm talking about these books too fast, you can check them out in the description below, because I will list them all down there. Coming in at number 2 this time, it's The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second novel in the Mistborn series. I've been considering for a while if I should read any of his other books or if I should try to finish this series. And after 1 year of thinking about it, I bought this one. If you want to know what this series is about, you can check out my video on reading high fantasy. I will try to link that one below as well. Sort of wrapping up the fantasy segment of this video, I bought The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I despise this cover, and that's why I haven't bought it sooner. I'm thinking about just reading all of Neil Gaiman's novels, and I'm almost finished, because there aren't that many. It's about a boy that lives in a graveyard and gets educated by ghosts. I have to some degree enjoyed all of Neil Gaiman's books so far, so this won't be any different, I presume. Then I went to a flea market and bought a book I already own, but thinking I will gift it to someone. Haven't yet decided. And it's The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and I really loved this cover, and that's why I bought it. And now I just have to figure out who's going to get it, because I already have a version in my shelf. Maybe I'll just keep both, who knows. This wasn't my favorite Neil Gaiman book either, so maybe it's wrong to gift it to someone. I'll have to think about it. And with a surprisingly similar title, it's The End of the Ocean by Maja Lunde. This is the second book in the Climate Quartet. I've already read The History of Bees, and this is, not surprisingly, about the ocean. She's now published 4 books, and they're each about their own topic within the climate realm. And this is said to be kind of a slow one, as with the first one. I loved the first one, and I think I will enjoy this as well. As with the first book, this also jumps between plots and have 2 timelines, I think 20 years between. As I said, I enjoyed the first one and I want to read the rest of them. That's why I also bought the third one. And this has 3 different plots, 3 different timelines, and it's about horses. I do really not know what the climate aspect of it is, but we'll just wait and see. Maja Lunde published her last novel this year, so that will probably be at flea markets next year. Being at flea markets really opens up the opportunity to buy books you wouldn't otherwise have bought because of the price. And this one is one of those, and it's Åsa Lindeborg with eier, ingen. I have no good translation, because it would be something like No One Owns Me. Maybe that's an okay translation. I recognized her name because last year she talked about that she didn't want to be on television because she felt like she wasn't pretty enough, or she was dissatisfied with her own looks. And that sparked a debate that made me recognize her name. But this one is about her own upbringing, which was terrible, much due to this guy. And when I read on the back of this novel, I almost cried because it was really tough. For example, she describes how her father leaves her outside the kindergarten in the middle of the night, just so she can stand there until it opens. This won't be a pleasant read, I think, but I'm happy I bought it. The next one is called Hør Herra by Gulraiz Sharif. This is just a book I do not know anything about, but it's sold a whole lot. It came out in 2020, and it's a debut novel, and I will find out what it's about later on. The only thing I've heard is that it's a bit similar to Tante Ulrikes Vei, which I absolutely loved and talked about earlier this year. But I have nothing more to say about this one right now. The next book was sent to me by the publisher after I asked, and it's Løpe by Kerstin Ekman. This one is nominated for the Nordic Council Literature Prize this year, and that's why I wanted to read it. Also, it has already sold a whole lot in Sweden, which Kerstin Ekman is from. Kerstin Ekman has actually been in the game for a long time, which I didn't know. She's 89 years old, and I find it really refreshing that someone at that age is able to write cool books that get nominated for prizes. It's just very impressive. And this one is about a hunter that has been hunting different animals all his life, but now he meets a wolf and he might change his mind. I find the plot to be intriguing, and I'm going to read this before October ends. And since I first noticed Kerstin Ekman, it was easy to spot her name once again at the flea market, and this time it was Blackwater. This has actually won the Nordic Council Literature Prize earlier and is her best-selling book. Or at least the most famous one. I guess those two go hand in hand. And this is a crime fiction novel, and probably I will read this as well if I like the first one. Then I found The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. I have the English version, but after a while I figured out that that might be difficult to read. Thus I found the Norwegian version, and I was happy because I might try to read it in Norwegian if it's difficult to read. Also, if I like it, I can gift one of those. And now for The Hype, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. This is about how we sleep, why we sleep, what we get out of our sleep, and why it's important. And it's really difficult to see myself reading this now when I have small kids and I do not control my own sleeping that much. But a lot of people I know have changed their sleeping habits after reading this one because they see the importance. And I do believe that most people might sleep too little, so when my kids grow up, I'll read this one. And now let's continue the hype with Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This seems to be one of the most selling authors in the world right now, at least that's my impression. And the books seem like books you want to read if you don't want to read books. And that's a compliment. But I already have a couple of her books standing in my shelf, so I'll probably not read that soon. But a book I will probably read quite soon is this one, and it's Astrid the Unstoppable by Maria Parr. And the fun thing about this novel is that it came out in 2009, but I hadn't heard about it until quite recently because it was featured in a podcast. When I then looked it up, it was really popular, and everyone seemed to love this novel. It's about this young girl that grows up in a small place in the western part of Norway, and she's said to be quite fearless and cool, and everyone loves this novel, so probably I will as well. And then I found the third novel in the Lars series about the detective John Linna. As I've talked about recently, I've read the first two books, so naturally I found the third one and bought it because I will read it at some point, because that's my go-to entertaining Nordic noir crime fiction at this time. Also, I've been thinking, since I've started reading some series of books, my plan is that I can buy 2 books ahead of my reading. So now that I've read the 2 first books, I can buy the 3rd and 4th book, but not the 5th, because that will be too much. I don't know if this is a good plan or if someday I'll regret doing it this way, but so far so good. Then one author that everyone in Norwegian public school has to read, as if we have that many schools that are not public. Anyway, it's Roald Dahl and the Witches. And Roald Dahl was born in Cardiff, but he has 2 Norwegian parents. That's why we talk about him as almost pure Norwegian, even though everyone knows he isn't. Many of you probably know this story. It's about witches that look like normal people and they despise children. This edition I really enjoy because I have more of Roald Dahl's books in this like child-friendly version. And of course I hope to be reading these ones for my children at some point. Then over to Helga Flatland, that has been suggested for me because of the way she writes, her prose. And this is A Modern Family, which is her most read book. It's about a couple that divorces late in life and how the family organizes afterwards. And she's known to write about relationships and how people behave around each other. I also found One Last Time by the same author, and this one is about a cancer patient and it sheds light on the fractured relationships around this patient and the life that has been. So that seems to be the reason why I want to be reading her books, because of how she describes relationships. And at some point I will probably read her books. Last year I bought A Gentleman in Moscow, but I haven't read it because the font size is really small. But recently I went to Little Free Library and I found this one, Lincoln Highway by Amor Tolls also. Of course I haven't yet read this one, but maybe I'll read this one before the other one. Either way, I bought it because it was free, so maybe I didn't buy it after all. Then over to a book that was sent to me by one of you guys, so thank you very much. And it's Educated by Tara Westover. After I received this one, I noticed how immensely popular this one is, and it has over 1.2 million ratings on Goodreads, I think, which is insane, and I haven't seen those kinds of numbers before. So that has to say something about this novel. And it's about a girl that comes from this broken family. They don't believe in medicine. She doesn't know anything about the world around her. And one day she decides to educate herself. And she writes about the process in this novel. And of course she has written this novel, so it ended well for her. But I believe this is a tough read. Over from one popular book to another, it's Please Look After My Mom by Shin Kyung-suk. And this one is about a woman that goes missing and her family looking for her and finding out secrets as they go along. She is Korean, and I probably want to read more of Asian authors in the future, so this might be one of those. Over to my favorite title of the ones that I'm talking about today, and it's Lars Lul by Iben Akerlie. And translated, it's Lars is Lul, which is kind of fun. It's a YA novel, and it's about this young girl coming to school, and she has been looking forward to mentoring younger kids all summer because each student get one younger student that they're responsible for. But what she doesn't know is that Lars has Down syndrome, and she really doesn't know how to handle this. And I just believe this to be a really heartwarming story, which I've heard a lot about and only good things. So this I will read quite quickly because it just seems quite fun. The last book today is a book that I feel like everyone knows, but I don't really know what the story is about other than the most basic plot, which might be surprising. But the most important thing about this book is the looks. And it's Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And just look at this. I was so happy when I found this edition. I just thought it was so beautiful. I have enjoyed reading children's novels this year, and I want to continue that journey, maybe with some children's classics, and just the spine of this one makes this jump in front of the line. Also, I bought this at the flea market as well, just very happy with that situation. Those are the books I bought this time around, but the flea markets aren't yet closed, so it might be more hauling to do later on. Very glad I unhauled some books not that long ago. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to check any of these books out, there will be both links and names in the description. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!